to your brain on air. The program will begin shortly. Enjoy.
Du lyssnar på din hjärna med programmet börjar kort. Njut av.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Your Brain on Air. I am your host, Ollie Vogt Larson. And folks, we are brought to you by DARPA, otherwise known as the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Listen, they asked me to deliver you this message. It is their fault that your Army veteran father, he has the screaming fits, the mood swings, the night terrors. It's due to that chip that they put in his head. Do not worry. It was only about the size of a postcard. Please just send him into the local VA. We will crack his noggin open like the birth of Athena and get that little nasty bugger computer buddy down to a cool 98 degrees. I think that's the typical temperature they want it hovering at, rather than the 500 or so that it's been running at since 1975. I know that explains a lot of your father's behavior, but listen, I didn't want to be the one to tell you. I'm sure that you figured it out after a while. Folks, this is no roast on veterans. I love my veterans out there. As a matter of fact, I know a lot of them, and they're some of my favorite people to hang out with because, listen, they're very dismissive. They're very dismissive. If you have a lot of concerns, they'll just tell you not to worry about them a lot. Or they're very loud, they don't know how to volume control, and that's another thing that I like about veterans is that they just show you their energy. They're raw, they're real, they're with it. They don't have time for your sensibilities. They don't have time for your civilian casualness. They want to get their point across, and I like that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why I like to hang out with them. And quite frankly, I like hanging out with veterans. I like being around them. I like their energy. They're just they have an experience of the world that I think very few people will truly understand, where it's they won't, half of the time these people don't like the United States, or they don't like the very things that they are being sent to go take care of. They're we're being sent here, I understand, not to defend these people's freedoms. We don't care about the women in this country and their right to vote. In all honesty, but why should we care? These people are halfway across the world. The only reason that we're here is we're servicing people above us and their interest. We're servicing their needs to get contracts. We're servicing their arms munition deals. We are servicing people who are inherently above us. And listen, they were broken down for this purpose. You know how you at your job, you complain that your boss, my boss has just got me thinking, he's got me on this schedule. He's got me living by his mentalities. He does not wake you up. Excuse me, Windows Microsoft Defender Summary, my antivirus software. I'm glad that you didn't find any threats during the last whatever. Thank you. I don't care. My point is that veterans, they have a unique experience of the world where, unlike a lot of people where they bitch and moan about, my boss tells me what to do, he has me do all of this sort of junk, he doesn't wake you up at 5 in the morning to run a mile. He does not, you are not broken down to go to this data entry job. You are not, as a human being, you have something taken away from you, or more so, molded in you. I think that the experience and the way that I've heard it phrased, at least from many of the people who've gone through basic training, boot camp, it is that you are not necessarily, some people need to be broken down all the way. Some people just need positioning. They need remodeling of their cerebral cortex. They need they need a program installed on them. And if your system isn't already ready to run this program, if your body's not in top physical condition, if your mind is not in top physical condition, you will be broken down and built up to be what they need you to be. And this, in many instances, some people, it's rare these days where people go Full Metal Jacket, where they're I am in a whole lot of shit. And then they're sitting in the bathroom, and then they're what is their superior officer? I'm trying to remember all my terms. Their superior officer and whatnot, the guy that was doing night guard and whatnot, he kills the superior officer and then kills himself in front of the night guard. Very rare does that happen these days. It does happen sometimes where you'll have a mutiny, you'll have people where they don't even trust the people that are above them, or they're just petty about the fact that they got themselves into this position. And I understand we're in a world where it's you have to elect to service, you have to want it to some extent nowadays because we don't have the draft. So the mentality that a lot of people are going into the armed services with, it's a lot different. It's not more so conscription, where like now, like back in the days, you could understand why there was a lot more murder. Back in the days, you could like of the days of Vietnam, where you were forced to go, you were conscripted. Literally, you were just grabbed off the streets. It's very Ukrainian. You know what I mean? They're not throwing you into a van, but a bus did come. You know what I mean? Like to your local town, you had a draft card. You had to show up. And that was a level of dehumanization that Americans were very, very uncomfortable with, and one that by the way, everybody's worried about Iran. Everybody's worried about the draft coming back. Everybody's worried about the war continuing. Yes. If the war continues, there is going to be escalations of some sorts. However, this is just me like spitballing ideas with you, because I treat this as like a podcast. Like I just treat it like a conversation with you. I really feel, and tell me if I'm wrong, you can tell me if you don't share this opinion. I feel like the United States has in many ways, I don't think that the individual leaders have learned their lessons, but I believe that the collective, like the vote, you could never get the large populace to agree to vote to bring back the draft. Like these people would understand that they will never win an election again. These people that in Congress, they go, we're never declaring that sort of a war again because it's going to decimate my support at home. They understand it's not popular. They understand that the American public, they're not in favor of going to war and wars they don't support. They know that it's going to divide people. They know that I know that it's not the closest we've ever come to another civil war, but the civil rights, the 60s era, all of that, it was a very contentious period already. And then when you threw on the fact that mothers were having to say goodbye to their sons, because of their birthday. By the way, I think July 8th was like which is my birthday. It was like it was like the 13th or so number that was called during the draft, the first calling that they did. So I would have been heading over. I would have been doing it. And you know what? It sounds fun. It's cool. I'm okay with the fact that a bunch of people that had my birthday probably died overseas. It means that I'm more unique. Me and, what's his name? Who's the one son? Who's Will Smith's son that he sexually abuses? Jaden Smith. Me and Jaden Smith have the same birthday. That's awesome. By the way, he sexually abuses his son. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if people just talk about it, but the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like the slap, is that really, you think that's the worst thing that he's ever done? This man rapes his children. Ladies and gentlemen, influencer killed by her husband after she accused him of being a pedophile on TikTok. This is a prime example of why you should just let the courts hash out your divorce. You should maybe wait until you live in a different city before you accuse your almost ex-husband of being a pedophile on TikTok. From what I could see, she was doing that stupid trend where people are like, they'll fake sitting in front of a camera, and it'll be like me getting ready for my Netflix documentary about blank. And then this was her saying, me getting ready for my Netflix documentary about being married to someone who was a pedophile. Then after her husband saw that TikTok, naturally he got a little angry. You know what I mean? But I'm a little bit angry, Barry. And he went ahead. He got a little bit angry and murdered her.
Now, with the disturbing case out of Oklahoma tonight, after a social media influencer was allegedly killed by her husband in an apparent murder-suicide. Police say Sarah Gilson was found dead Thursday, as was her husband, Jeremiah Duffy. It comes after Gilson posted this video on TikTok where she accused him of pedophilia. In June, she was granted an emergency protective order against Duffy after police told her he'd been accused of molesting a minor. Officials are still investigating this case.
Well, okay, this is why unfortunately, and this happens, unfortunately, there's a lot of pedophiles out in the world, and sometimes you marry them. And unfortunately, what you got to do in this situation is, this man, he looks larger than you. He looks stronger, you know what I mean? He has those raping arms. He has those, I'm in a van and I'm going to grab somebody while they're on their way back home from kindergarten arms. So I don't even blame her for wanting to stick it to her husband a little bit, because admittedly, he took advantage of her, and she trusted him. She thought they were building a life together, and I do believe that's taking advantage of her. It's like, you've lied to this person for so long, and I understand that it's like, this is a horrific desire. This is a horrific internal person to be. I feel as though that, the right way to handle this is not to try to talk to 14-year-olds behind your wife's back. It's to go get mental treatment for this, because the idea is there's people who can recognize the idea that they have attractions that are beyond the norms or whatever, people who have fetishes and whatnot, and then there are pedophiles. Then there are people who need mental treatments. They need to be locked up. There are some people that will be menaces to society, and then there's a ton of people. It's left or wing. It's also other what's it called? The arrangements of the psychology world where they're going, well, maybe we should just make fake children for these people to fuck. And I'm going, I I don't know if that's a great solution to this. I think that maybe getting the desire out of the person, like, sure, like, literally, I don't think that we can go inside and cut the tissue out of their brain that makes them desire it, but like mental facilities, like places where these people are interned, they cannot decide when they go home. It's like, you know how they used to try to get the gay out of people and whatnot? Like they used to just lock them up in sanatoriums. There is something to be said for that protects people from the sexual deviants. Not to say that the gays are the sexual deviants. I'm saying that the pedophiles are the sexual deviants, where maybe we need to bring back sanatoriums for them. Speaking of sanatoriums, and generally disgusting places to be, Crave in the mall is shutting down. West Acres Mall, Fargo, North Dakota. The popular Crave restaurant in West Acres Mall has shut down permanently. Well, okay, I called this place out not even a few episodes ago. I think it was maybe a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about how I haven't been there in maybe almost over a year. Due to, and this is why, their shrinking of the menu, which was ridiculous and stupid to do, but also the overpricing of the food. Let's get this, don't get it twisted. They had these overblown prices to begin with, but they had a menu to justify it, and they had decent options. Then they went ahead and they shrunk the menu. I think this was like 2 or so years ago, maybe now, and then they bumped up the prices, and they've been bumping them up continuously ever since. It is overpriced, it's schlocky. Admittedly, they're trying to go for this like Hell's Kitchen attire. Nope, lay off the whole staff. They're losers. I don't want these half-ass losers serving me my food. That's exactly why I have chosen not to go there. All these people, they're like in aprons and shit, and they're like, I'm some stupid 22-year-old who's looking to, I'm looking to mix drinks in between sucking cock to pay my rent. Like, that's the energy of every person who works at Crave. It's losers.
A West Acres Mall staple shutting its doors permanently. Duke Schindler here with Valley News Now, as I am outside of Crave here at the West Acres Mall, who recently shut down its operation.
Good.
Crave confirming this on their open table page, saying thank you so much for thinking of us. We know it's disappointing to find out that reservations are no longer available.
Is it disappointing? Or is like the fat losers who are like, oh, I'm gonna slob, like they look like Slimer. They look like absolute slobs. They're like, I'm gonna slovenly walk my way in between Best Buy and Best Buy's not even worth walking into, by the way. But Best Buy, I stopped going in there ever since they stopped selling physical media. And physical media, that is the my 2000s brain came in for a second. It's the Blu-ray. And that's another older technology that maybe not a lot of people are interested in, but I like Blu-ray. I buy Blu-ray, I buy DVD. I like owning my movies. I like all those sorts of, I like physical. I like actually owning it, and I understand that GTA is not going to have a physical release, or it kind of is. It's not going to have an actual disc. It's going to be a download digital code inside of like I don't understand it at this point. Is it just supposed to be like a shelf decor? Like it's supposed to fit in among, like, oh, I have GTA 5, I have whatever from my previous consoles, and now I'm just going to slide this one in alongside it, but there's no actual disc inside? That's just kind of retarded to me. But, I don't go to Best Buy. I'm not going to Crave. The entire eastern side of the mall is kind of dying. The eastern side of the mall, they have the Asian nail salon, which is, not bad, but it makes the entire area smell awful. And I'm pretty sure that's another reason that the Crave area is shutting down, because when you're eating at a steak restaurant, just maybe, 30, 40 feet away, you don't want to smell that. You don't want to smell the aggressive alcohol they need in order to get the nails off. They use a lot of products that just, it's very noxious to your, it's awful to walk near, and it burns your nostrils, and whatever. That's just my read on how I don't know that side of the mall is long for this place after they lost Forever 21, Spencer's, and Hot Topic, and that little like Miniso. It's like an Asian little tiny, like they have a bunch of cute stuff. I don't know that's drawing in very many people. I don't know. I don't see very many people going into Best Buy. I don't see very many people buying brand new Kindle Fires. You know what I mean? It's a non-happening side of the mall. But I guess Crave being gone, maybe there's a chance that they'll throw in something that's going to be able to draw in more foot traffic. Maybe they'll be able to throw in something that'll get the kids back on it. I have no idea how it's going to go. But I do have faith in the planners. I do have faith in the organizers. I do have faith in the managers of West Acres. They say that and admittedly, they haven't chosen very great places already. Von Maur, that's a strange, all right, whatever. It's not a great anchor store, but I don't see anyone in there. I don't see anybody getting a loyalty card. I give it maybe less than 5 years, but it's not making it to the 2030s. But I'm just saying that's just the truth. Crave, who knows? It might be a loss for the worse. It might be a loss for the better, you know?
Emailing Valley News Live confirming the closure as well, saying West Acres remains well-positioned.
Well-positioned? I'm curious what that means.
Also added on that email is that West Acres Mall is fully aware of this, and they've been working to find a replacement for Crave.
Well, there you go.
For your Valley News Now digital update, I'm Duke Schindler.
Duke Schindler, appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, that means that maybe they got something in the works for you. Maybe they got something cooking up. Maybe they got a decent restaurant to fill out the hole in our hearts that has been left by a Crave, unfortunately. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about actual news. Let's talk about some serious things. Unfortunately, 3 people killed, 4 injured in a mass shooting near Seattle's Space Needle. Only 7 people hit by bullets. You call that a mass shooting? Authorities in Seattle are actively searching for a second suspect following a deadly mass shooting at the crowded Bite of Seattle Food Festival in Seattle Center. Directly beneath the Seattle Space Needle, gunfire erupted on Sunday evening during the final hours of the popular 3-day event. It sent thousands of festival goers and vendors fleeing for cover. Police say the violence appeared to stem from an exchange of gunfire between at least 2 individuals in a heavily populated area near the Seattle Center Armory. 3 people were killed in the shooting, identified by authorities as a 19-year-old man, a 44-year-old man, and a 56-year-old woman. 4 other bystanders were wounded, including a 2-year-old boy who remains hospitalized in stable condition, thank goodness. Medical officials have confirmed the 3 adult surviving victims have been treated for gunshot wounds and discharged from area hospitals. Imagine getting discharged from, you got shot. Good for you. You walked away with just a discharge from the hospital. Law enforcement officers already stationed at the festival responded within seconds, recovering the 2 firearms and taking a 15-year-old male suspect into custody at the scene. The teenager was being held in juvenile detention on investigation of weapons violations and assault charges. Meanwhile, homicide detectives supported by federal agents from the FBI and ATF continue to canvass the area and review witness statements to locate the second fleeing gunman. The American flag atop the Space Needle is lowered at half staff as local leadership has called the incident an unimaginable tragedy for the city. Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson praised the emergency responders for the swift action to secure the sprawling venue when community leaders were organizing evening vigils to honor the victims. Investigators are working to determine the precise motive. We still know very little. I'm assuming it's an argument that broke out, or at least that's a lot of the interpretation we're hearing now.
Oh my God. Overnight, a frightening scene in Seattle, near the city's iconic Space Needle. A gunman opening fire Sunday evening, killing 3 people and injuring 4 others. The moment of the shooting captured in this live stream video.
Get down, get down, get down, get down! I'm being told that the suspect may have an automatic weapon.
What happened here today at the Seattle Center was an unbelievable tragedy.
One thing that you'll notice about this, because it was a food festival, there was a lot of people that were like making kebab or something, like people who were like popcorn vendors, and they were like, let's smash the like, can we get it to 1,000 or whatever? They were like interacting with their audience when you heard the pangs of a gunshot in the distance. And then like a few of their customers went, a gun, somebody's got a gun, and he went, can't you see I'm aura farming, I'm clout farming?
Act of violence.
Police say just after 6 p.m., fire crews responded to reports of a shooting during the Bite of Seattle Food Festival at Seattle Center.
Anyone have a small child tourniquet size? Small child arm tourniquet.
Vendors set up and families enjoying the evening when gunfire sent crowds running for cover. People sheltering inside of buildings around Seattle Center.
We were trying to run away, once we heard the shots. Everybody kind of just started panicking.
First responders rushing to the festival, attempting to revive 2 of the people who were shot. But both of those victims ultimately declared dead on scene.
Eesh.
4 other people, including a 2-year-old, were transported by firefighters to a local hospital after sustaining injuries. One of them later died. One suspect has been taken into custody. This video appearing to show that arrest. Police say another suspect is still on the loose.
He looks burly for a 15-year-old. He looks like wide.
That was also involved that fled the scene, and officers began an active search for that person. We believe that there were two people shooting at each other.
As we were trying to flee, we heard whoosh, like a big whoosh, right past our ears. And a bullet landed into the tree that was right next to us.
Whoa.
Ava Hendricks was at the festival with her family when the gunfire erupted.
It was very scary, and after the whole thing was over, and we were just waiting for the police to come, and we were just looking at each other like, how are we still alive? How did we make it through that?
And George, police tell us they still have a lot to figure out today, including finding that second shooter. They think the shooters were firing at one another. We just got an update from police. They say that those who died ranged in age from 19 to 56 years old.
Well, that is terrible. Ladies and gentlemen, 7 people's pretty low to call it a mass shooting. I think mass, we're talking at least maybe 10, 20. But whatever, I guess 7, that's whatever you're calling anything a mass shooting these days. Ladies and gentlemen, prayers for the victims, thoughts and prayers, really, to include the people that are I don't really want to pray for people. I want to think about it. And I get it. You're not dedicated to the religion, and that's chill. I'm not, me too. I understand that approach. So thoughts and prayers, I guess hypotheses and prayers. We're going to go with a very scientific angle. You know what I mean? I'm not going to force anyone's religion onto you, ladies and gentlemen. I know that Catholics and, the Jews, the Muslims, they're all very used to having the elders of their religions forcing themselves onto them. So I will not force the religion onto you. Forcing is not what we're into here. We're into consensual. We're into talking. We're into just sharing ideas. We are not like the Catholic priests. We're not going to force our beliefs onto you, ladies and gentlemen, or ourselves. Trump is hosting Netanyahu, speaking of Jews, and Ukrainians, and Zelensky in Washington, D.C. The Iran conflict is still escalating, but President Donald Trump thought that it was a great time to host the separate high-stakes meetings in the White House today. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, both foreign leaders are in Washington right now to attend the memorial service for the late Senator Lindsey Graham, creating a rare convergence of diplomatic talks as major conflicts in the Middle East and Eastern Europe are still continuing to reach critical junctures. And what I mean by that is, this was a perfect opportunity. Lindsey Graham touched both the Israel alliance and he touched the Ukrainian alliance. This was the prime opportunity to get all of these people to come and celebrate the life of, quite frankly, I don't believe that I memorialized him well enough in the episode that I dedicated to him. And it's hard to memorialize an Odyssean figure like him. The meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu is marking their first face-to-face encounter since the formal U.S. and Israeli operations against Iranian targets flared earlier this year. They haven't seen each other in person since that started, so discussions are expected to center on the ongoing conflict with Iran, maintaining security in Lebanon, and the fragile diplomatic efforts to secure maritime transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Washington and Tehran are currently observing a temporary pause in direct missile strikes to allow the regional mediation procedure. The White House officials are emphasizing the regional security and long-term strategy against Iran must remain top priorities for both administrations simultaneously. Trump's talks with President Zelensky are going to focus on the evolving situation in Ukraine. The recent foreign intelligence assessments, Ukrainian officials have recently reported that Russian intelligence networks have been supplying satellite targeting data to Iranian forces in the Persian Gulf, a claim that President Trump indicated he intends to address in future communications with Moscow. Okay, let's hear a little bit more about this.
The wars in Iran and Ukraine will be high on the agenda in Washington today. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu set to meet with President Trump at the White House. It will be their first in-person meeting since the conflict with Iran began. Mr. Trump will also host Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Both world leaders are in town for Senator Lindsey Graham's funeral. Meanwhile, things have been relatively calm in the Middle East after the U.S. and Iran paused strikes.
Relatively.
President Trump is expressing optimism about ongoing diplomatic efforts.
We're having good talks, so we'll see what happens. I think there's a good chance that something could happen. And if it does, good. If it doesn't, we go back to doing what we were doing 2 days ago.
CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi kicks off our coverage from our D.C. bureau. Olivia, good morning. President Trump has clashed with both of these world leaders at times. So what are all sides hoping to get out of today's double one-on-one meetings?
Well, good morning, Errol. It's good to be with you. Certainly, both leaders are here for Lindsey Graham's funeral, who really was a champion of both leaders, even though they're both engaged in separate conflicts. So quite notable there. The whole point of the meetings today is stability for both sides. For Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, this is coming at a crucial moment in that war because Russia is continuing to intensify attacks inside of Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukraine is intensifying their attacks inside of Russia using long-range missiles. Ukrainian President Zelensky said today about their meeting that their number one priority is an anti-ballistic defense and strategic cooperation with the U.S. He says that peace needs to be brought closer, so we know what his objective will be today when meeting with President Trump. The interesting meeting that will also be happening is between President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It's their first time meeting in person since the conflict with Iran began in February, and that meeting is notable because these two leaders have really sparred in recent months. As we know, the Israeli Prime Minister came to the U.S. back in February to really convince President Trump that this was a mission that the U.S. and Israel should go on together, to go inside Iran, to take out their leadership, to deal with their nuclear capacity there. But since the war has spiraled out of control, as we know, the president said what was once supposed to be a 4 to 6 week conflict has now lasted 5 months, going on 6 months, especially as the ceasefire crumbled. So this continues to be something that looms over that relationship, which has grown quite tense. So for both leaders today, they're looking for stability in their relationships with President Trump, both here for the funeral of Lindsey Graham. Those meetings will be happening this morning before they head on to the funeral. Errol?
I remember a Trump of the no new wars Trump. I remember when he was still on that bandwagon because he knew that it was getting him solid votes. He knew that he was getting a lot of support from the anti-war crowd, and that went out the window like quick. It was not like a solid amount of time that he had in order to change his views. Like, oh, maybe there's some legitimacy to Israel's points. Maybe Iran is pretty close to a nuclear weapon. There was not any time for that. It was like, oh, who's ready to pass me a check? Who's ready to talk to me? Who's ready to negotiate? I want the people to be talking about my legacy in a few years. So who's going to be giving me some deals that I can negotiate with some other countries? Who's going to create some historic peace in the Middle East? Me. How am I going to do that? Well, Bibi Netanyahu said the best way to do that is by bombing Iran. I think that that's what we're going to have to do, ladies and gentlemen. It's common sense. I don't know what else to tell you, but that seems like where Trump is operating right now is just pure common sense. Or maybe like just the sense of like an animal that's been trapped. What is that? It's not common sense. It's a fear response. You are cornered. You're in a fight or flight mode. You're in a fight, flight, or fawn mode. And he fawns quite a bit. He fawns quite a bit over other leaders of different dictatorial amounts. You know, they're not all walking around chopping people's heads off. Some of them are just poisoning journalists. Some of them are like forcefully conscripting their population. He's out and friendly with a bunch of those world leaders, which is fine. He's a world leader himself. You know what I mean? I understand that once you become a world leader, you kind of join this club of people that like. You know, in America, we don't love to poison journalists, but you know, if you're threatening something, if you're threatening, like if you're going to blow the whistle on something, someone's going to drown you in Martha's Vineyard. Someone's going to make sure that you don't make it home at the end of the day. Someone's going to make sure that your car goes off a bridge. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States. I would love to head to the United States again for our rapid fire section of today's headlines. I'd love to head to the good old state of Minnesota. In an not NPR. Everybody's going like NPR? Like, no. Not N like the N word. M as in Mario, like NPR. There was a news debate between Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan and Representative Angie Craig. And these are two women that are going for the Senate seat right now, and they're sharing their opinions on the war in Iran. They're sharing how they're both different variable amounts of disappointed in the current administration's handling of the Middle East.
Just minutes ago, the final Democratic debates ahead of the primary election for Minnesota's next U.S. Senator wrapped up. Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan and Representative Angie Craig are sharing where they stand on key issues. Here's what they both had to say when it comes to congressional spending on the war with Iran.
Are there any circumstances in which you could support more funding for this war?
I think there has to be a plan. Right now...
Wait a minute. Peggy Flanagan, this is not a good response. To say, well, right there, in order for me to support the idea of sending more money to this, there needs to be a plan. Peggy Flanagan is Sarah Paulson's worst character. And if she becomes the future governor of Minnesota, that would be awful. It'd be great for SNL, because then they could bring on Sarah Paulson. But otherwise, I just don't think that it's going to work.
There isn't one. What we know about this war so far is that, they've spent $32 billion and costs for Americans keep going up.
There's no circumstances I would support more funding for this war, Brian. Donald Trump got us into a war with absolutely no strategic plan whatsoever.
Listen, Angie Craig, many people have their issues with her, but I appreciate her straight talking. I understand that that's something that people can use to deceive you, and ergo, I want to be open to all criticisms. So, here's a criticism that someone has of Angie Craig.
If you're not already an Angie Craig hater here in Minnesota, I'm about to make you one, because we just learned some of the most appalling shit about this woman.
How bad is it? You've got to tell me some pretty appalling stuff about this woman in order to get me off of her train, but it has to be genuinely appalling.
I still can't even believe that it's true. When Senator John Hoffman last year was in the ICU, recovering after being shot 9 times by Vance Bolter, Angie Craig was calling the Hoffman home repeatedly. And when Senator Hoffman finally got a chance to talk to her, you know what she wanted? She wanted his fucking endorsement for her U.S. Senate race.
So she's a businesswoman. Can you hate her for that? If a man was doing it, it'd be called drive. It would be called initiative.
John was having 9 bullet wounds packed.
Oh my God, he was shot. Oh my God, who cares? It's just kind of part of the job at this point of being a public figure. You're gonna get shot.
Facing multiple surgeries and so much worse shit that I can't even share with you. And Angie Craig was only worried about her fucking endorsement.
Oh my God, this is the typical Minnesotan. It's like some wide foreheaded blonde girl who thinks she knows something with her, her big ass Swedish brows. I think she's fooling anybody, but guess what? She's not. I'm sorry, Swedish people, you have to hear this. Your blood is tainted by years of race mixing with Laplanders. You're basically Finns. You know what I mean? You have no cultural hegemony, and it kind of shows. It shows. You show up in Minnesota, you think you know something, you go on your phone, you say something funny, and admittedly, you think that you're making a great point. You're just making me laugh with the... Listen, if a man called another man who had just been shot 9 or so times by an attempted terrorist attack, and if a man was calling him and was not worried at all about the gunshots, was not worried at all about the multiple surgeries his friend was facing, if he was just there to ask for his endorsement for senator, it's like, hey, you're not, I understand you're not in a great state, but you still can think. You can think about whether or not I'd be a great senator, and then you can tell your followers whether or not you think I would be too. I understand her train of thought. If a man did it, it would be called drive.
Fucking Senate race.
Are you just going to swear?
Campaign ending information.
No, it's not.
As far as I'm concerned.
It's not campaign ending. What are you talking about? We are dealing with the same people. We are dealing with the same campaign system that gave us individuals like, if you do not have a great memory, we had Graham Plattner. We had these people with Nazi tattoos. We had these people calling themselves communists, and they're winning. And they're like, people are showing up to vote for them en masse. Like, don't get at me about cancelable offenses. Oh, she's a little too business focused. She's a little too focused on her career. Oh my God, why is it so villainous when suddenly a woman is so worried about her career? This sounds like classic sexism coming from a woman, nonetheless.
She never visited them. She never went to go see them.
Oh, she wasn't caring enough? God, fuck all that nonsense, all right? Just because she's not your ideal, oh, she's not motherly enough, whatever. She is a businesswoman, and she's going to be the next senator of Minnesota, ladies and gentlemen. Get this woman off my screen. I'm not dealing with it. You can have all the complaints you want, and I will listen to them. I will listen to your authentic complaints if you tell me something legit about a candidate where it's like, okay, you really shouldn't support them now. But honestly, if you're going to keep throwing these Manchurian candidates at me, these people that are bought out by billionaires, these people who have been serving in politics the last however many years, these people who are just baked into the system, their typical faces that just get swapped out. They're talking heads. They're a Kamala Harris type. But by the way, speaking of Kamala Harris, smooth transition. There's debate as to whether or not she is running again in 2028. I'm pretty solid on it, and I think she's going to make the ultimate mistake. Why do I say this? You might be unfamiliar, but there's some whispers going around. And I understand that whispers mean nothing. Whispers mean nothing, but it's still testing the waters. It's getting a feel for the wind. It's figuring out where the wind is blowing. It's figuring out what you're testing out what the temperature is. And the temperature right now that a lot of people have been testing for is that unfortunately, while a lot of people on the ground are saying Kamala would be disastrous if she tried to run again, it wouldn't go well for her. And many people, though, they have been bought in by the idea that, well, she was robbed of the amount of time that she needed. She only had 107 days. That's why she put out the book. That's why she was limited. And if she had the chance to fully debut her personality, if she had the chance to fully debut herself on the national stage, then Americans would fall in love with her this time. This time, they'll actually like all of the things that she pitches. This time, when she chooses Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as her vice presidential candidate, people will like it. People will like it this time. People liked it when she chose someone who worked at Menards or whatever for her last candidate choice. But, this obviously is going to go 10 times better. Whether or not these rumors are true that she is eyeing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has a key issue. She's too, for a really serious person, she's a little too girly. I'm sorry to say it, a little too girly. I'm not taking edicts. I'm not taking public orders. I'm not calling somebody who behaves this way my president. Now, in order to, people are going to go, why, you have an issue with people acting girly? Yeah, I kind of do. I have an issue with people acting fucking 13 when they are in their, they're 30. They're 30 something and they have this kind of giggly, this whimsical kind of ness to them and whatnot. I judge them severely. It's like, you need to part with that behavior beyond a certain age. She hasn't dropped the little girl act. She hasn't dropped this sort of this energy that she carries with her. And I understand it's a youthful thing. It's where she's trying to be like, I'm the new youthful spirit. I'm going to grab your attention by being youthful and being opinionated. And it's too much. She needs seasoning. She needs to sit in the oven for a while. She needs time. She is not a Ruth Bader Ginsburg figure right now. She's a reactionary. And I think that she needs a little bit more time before she's taken seriously by the masses. That's just my personal opinion. I don't ever see her being a presidential type. I do see her being like a namestay. I see women with tattoos of her in a few years. I see Ruth Bader Ginsburg where, sure, she showed up every day. She was there and whatnot, but she didn't really do too terrible much. She was on the Supreme Court. She made rulings and whatnot that eventually got overturned. She was there. But and a lot of people were like, well, she's a woman and doing it, so I'm going to own a bobblehead of her or whatever. So that will be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She will be this girl boss figure after she has had enough time in the oven, after she's had enough time to temper her personality just enough for feminist t-shirts or some shit you can post on Instagram. She needs tempering though. She needs it's like when you put a little chocolate that's already made into the melted chocolate so that it gets that shiny coat, so that it gets the snap and whatnot. She needs tempering, ladies and gentlemen. AI, is it at a turning point? OpenAI CEO Sam Altman really thinks so, apparently. He thinks we are at the singularity where advancements are happening so quickly we won't even be able to keep up with them. What do humans mean in a future like that? He doesn't know.
This morning, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman says artificial intelligence has reached a major turning point, arguing the technology is now advancing so quickly it could fundamentally change the way we work and live.
We are now in the singularity. This is the moment. For the last 10 years ago, this was a kind of far off dream at best. It seemed very improbable.
The singularity is a term used to describe the point where AI surpasses human intelligence.
Skynet. Skynet is the virus. It's the reason everything's falling apart.
Skynet has become self-aware.
For decades, Hollywood has imagined the possibility of artificial intelligence becoming too powerful for humans to control. Now, Altman is taking that debate to Washington, meeting with the Trump administration this week to showcase OpenAI's most powerful model yet and to push for its approval. The system, capable of solving an 80-year-old math problem, could also take on complex tasks for businesses and the government. But that same ability to act more independently is also raising safety concerns after OpenAI's system was able to hack into another AI platform called Hugging Face during a security test.
What?
Hugging Face's CEO calls the hack unprecedented. He's demanding more transparency from OpenAI to allow researchers to understand what happened and prevent future attacks. Altman says the answer is not to stop the technology, but to put AI in the hands of people with guardrails in place.
I've been waiting for this my whole life, and I think it's going to be incredible, hugely positive, awesome for the world.
The White House has created a voluntary process for AI companies to submit new models for safety reviews.
He's very vague about the positives. He's very vague about the idea that, like, yeah, he says this is going to be great for us. We're going to have an age of abundance. We're going to have an age where, we're producing so much that everybody can have a little bit of something. But, I think that he is planning for a world that he still doesn't know entirely what it's going to look like. He's pitching us an idea that they don't even know how they're going to bring it into fruition. They don't know what we're going into. We understand that there's going to be automation. We understand that people are going to lose their jobs. We understand that there's going to be a lot of change. There's going to be a lot. However, what I think a lot of people are more worried about than anything, and they're worried about the idea that it's like, what is everyone going to do when we have nothing to do throughout the day? You have no job to be at. Your family, you can hang out with them if you want, but otherwise it's like you have nothing to do. We are not going to ask you to show up to work at a certain time. You're a lazy piece of shit. You wouldn't do it if we asked you to. You don't even want to, be honest with me. You don't want to get up for it. Who wants to get up for work every 5 days of a week? Who wants to get up at 7 in the morning, come home at 3, drink themselves into sleep every night, put on a TV show and then repeat it the next day, and then maybe do something fun on the weekend, but otherwise, Alcoholism is like the thing you look forward to every day, or drugs or whatever. Like they are going, do you really want to do that? You really want to spend all your days doing menial labor? You want to go do this or do that? You want to go work at a car wash? Do you want to go mow lawn? No, you don't. You're going to buy these people who are, rich enough to have lawns, by the way. That's not going to be a thing for everybody. People who are rich enough to own lawns, they're just going to buy the computer because it's going to be a Roomba that essentially goes and clips their lawn, makes it look perfect, more perfect than you ever could. More perfect than you as like the messy, you're some guy who'd be out in my front yard with his t-shirt off, and I don't want that sweaty piece of shit on my front lawn. I'd rather have a nice looking drone going and cutting my front yard. Like, listen, it used to be bougie to have people do labor. It used to I'm building a mansion. Well, okay, I need people to hang the drywall. I need people to lay the foundation. I need all of these construction workers. Soon there's going to be construction worker bots. And then all those people that are drug addicts and alcoholics, where are they going to go? Where are all the construction workers going to go? Where are all the people that have no life plan going to go? Where am I going to go, by the way? People who are like me, where it's like there's not much for them beyond this, because it's like, I'm not ready to dedicate myself to a craft. I'm not ready to go out there and learn how to weld. What are we going to do? And unfortunately, the answer for us is universal basic income, and you're probably going to Netflix all day. Unfortunately, let's admit it, most of us are not going to be reading the classics. Most of us are not going to be like a whetstone sharpening our sword of a mind. Most of us are going to be doing nothing. At least that's what a lot of us are going to be doing. That's like the majority. If I have to bet, and you're probably right, I'm right. The majority of people, once you start handing them $1,000 a week, once you start, or let's be honest, every 2 weeks, because people can live off of that for right now. Once you start handing people $1,000 every 2 weeks, you help them. What do you mean paycheck to paycheck? You don't ever plan on moving into a different thing. We give you housing. We give you an apartment building you live in. You live there with a bunch of people who scream at each other, scream at their children, and there's drug addicts everywhere. There's open needles in the hallway. You're gonna live in that Section 8 housing because guess what? It's the only thing you can afford. It's the only thing you can afford because you go off of government money. And by the way, the whole reason that we're all having this conversation right now, the whole reason anybody's scared is because we want money to get somewhere eventually. Now they're going to destroy that. They're going to be like, what do you even want money for? You want it for a car? We have you. We're going to have public transit. We're going to have we're going to have Uber. We're going to have all of that. You don't need a car. And then, you want a house? We have this, we have housing for you. It has room, and that room have TV. That TV has show. And on the other side of that room is couch. And also in another room in that place, you have bed where you can sex and you can sleep and you can do all of your things. You never have to leave. Ladies and gentlemen, what will the age of abundance look like? It's going to look like a whole lot of nothing. It's going to look like a lot of, I'm going to be honest with you, drug addict rooms. Do you ever hang out in a room with drug addicts where it's a lot of people they're having their own individual experience with their minds, their own little sensual experiences. Some people, maybe they're focused on another person, but it's like, it's just a room full of filthy folks just kind of sitting together, and it's just like the air is just, it's hung, it's humid, you know what I mean, with so many people that are just drugged out of their minds. It's going to be a lot of those rooms. It's going to be an age. We're dealing with an age where you don't have a need to want. You don't have a need to want, so what do you want money for? At least that's what it's going to be pitched to you as. Ladies and gentlemen, an announcement from Andy Burnham, yes, from the United Kingdom.
3 things you probably already know about me. I go to a lot of gigs, I do like a pint, and I have been known to give a DJ set from time to time. Well, today's announcement is very close to my heart. I'm giving thousands of pubs, clubs and music venues a 20% cut in their business rates. These places deserve my support, our support, and they're getting it. So maybe I should do another DJ set soon to celebrate. Cheers, and have a good weekend, everyone.
Okay, so just you're helping out pubs. Good for you. 20%? All right, you know. Pub culture is good in the UK. Good for you guys. It's not solid in the United States. Like, pubs are an interesting place because there's children there, there's adults. It's like an intermingling of the community. Everybody kind of chats, and there's different spaces inside of the bar. And it introduces you, at least when I was a kid, I loved hanging around bars. When I was a kid, I loved when my dad would bring me into the bar, and he would always get kicked out eventually because it's like, in America, it's considered child abuse to bring your kid into a bar. But like in the United Kingdom, it's so much less destigmatized. Alcohol in general is a little less destigmatized. It's seen a little less as transgressive, which I think also, you know, it accounts for the alcoholism that we have in America, where a lot of people, they start drinking because it's like a naughty thing. A lot of people, they start drinking because it's something their parents didn't let them do, but their parents did, and they just like that little kind of like, ooh, I'm being bad. I personally, at a certain point, you realize drinking, it's overhyped. It's overrated. It's fine. You know what I mean? If you like cutting away the stress really quick, that I admit it's good for that. But otherwise, the grossness that it does to your body, the way that it stops working as well, your joints hurting. Everybody who's been on like a binge, at least, like after, I know personally, in the darker moments of me drinking alcohol, there have been moments where you wake up and it's like you've gone through maybe 2 days of solid drinking. You feel it. You understand that your body is not designed to handle this much, or at least like some people's bodies aren't. And even the people whose bodies are designed to handle alcohol should not be drinking alcohol very much. There's no gene that makes it so that alcohol is as good as having carrots, if you understand what I mean. It's still worse than having a Coca-Cola, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to rant anymore. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life because you know what's best for you. And I'm not the type to tell people what they need to do with themselves. Let's close out the rapid fire section of today's headlines with a cute little thing. Here's the story of how Bemidji, the town in Minnesota, probably one of the worst ones for crime, got its name.
Bemidji, Minnesota is named after this man, but his name was not Bemidji. Here's what happened. Shinawishkung, or He Who Rattles, lived in the 1800s on the shores of Lake Bemidji. According to the Minnesota Historical Society, settler colonialists arrived in the area in 1888. Shinawishkung told them the name for the lake, Bemidji Gumag, an Ojibwe word meaning water running crosswise through the lake. The settlers misunderstood and thought that was his name. Shinawishkung was so beloved not just by his fellow Ojibwe people, but also by the settlers that were moving into the area. So much so that they named the city of Bemidji after him. He was not a traditional chief, but he was a beloved peacemaker. In 2015, this statue was erected, and there are pillars and plaques here sharing more of his history. For Care 11, I'm Felicity Ockel.
Shinawishkun. Good for you. I'm happy that you have a city named after you. That's more than a lot of people, unfortunately, have in Minnesota. Ladies and gentlemen, whoever the fuck Eli is, what did Eli, or Ellie? I've heard it pronounced both ways. E-L-Y. I always pronounced it Eli, Minnesota, and some people are, they're a little more intense with it. They go, Ely, Minnesota. that doesn't sound right to me, but let me know whether or not it's correct in your opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, our final story. They're here. They are finally here. And listen, this is intense, and I thought that they were never going to happen, and they probably still won't, and even if they do happen, they'll be a disaster. But the New York City grocery plan, New York City free grocery store plan, it's called NYC Groceries. The city will fund and build 5 government-owned supermarkets, each in one borough. Now, government-run supermarket, I don't know, like, that doesn't sound good to me, but I just, like, okay, I understand we gotta have an open mind, so I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep an open mind. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani has formally unveiled plans for a $70 million municipal grocery store initiative aimed at lowering food costs for residents across the city's 5 boroughs. So, they are designed to offer a set 30% discount on essential kitchen staples, including fresh produce, meat, dairy, and bread. Okay, wait a minute. I thought this was supposed to be free grocery stores. I thought you were supposed to get, like, you walk in, you just grab what you need, and you leave. That's at least that is the socialist ideal. City officials estimate the initiative could save the average family up to $90 per month. In effort to combat persistent food inflation, to execute the project, the city's Economic Development Corporation will cover initial site construction, rent, and property tax while issuing requests for proposals to hire private third-party operators for day-to-day store management. That sounds like it's going to be ripe for, like, a lot of bullshit that you don't, like, third-party private operators. Perfect. Then, by the way, the city's keeping their hands nice and clean. Once everything goes sideways, they're going to be like, well, technically it was our third-party operator's responsibility in order to keep things running. So you'll never be able to hold anybody to account if this thing does go, tits up, unfortunately. It's going to be, buck past here. The first municipal location is scheduled to open in late 2027 within the Hunts Point neighborhood of the Bronx, with a second site planned for the La Marqueta in East Harlem. Administration officials emphasize that the stores will not sell hot foods, alcohol, or tobacco products in order to avoid direct competition with local bodegas and independent groceries. Listen, they're like, yeah, and also we're not selling, like, lottery tickets and shit. We really want the bodegas to continue to get their foot traffic. The announcement has drawn mixed reactions from business groups, economic analysts, I say that all the time. Analysts, as though that's a word. Analysts, blah, 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 blah. And political opponents, obviously. Their advocates, though, are arguing that the public option model provides a vital economic buffer for low-income neighborhoods where access to affordable fresh food is remaining limited. However, critics and the supermarket industry representatives, it sucks to be on the same side as those folks, contend that publicly subsidized grocery stores could undercut commercial margins, burden taxpayers, and face operational hurdles typical of government-managed retail experiences or enterprises. So, whether or not you think it's a good idea, a bad idea, I just want to see how it plays out, because I don't live here. Thank God my taxes are not going to be affected by this whatsoever. I just want to see how the experiment goes.
This morning, as Americans from coast to coast grapple with the cost of groceries, a controversial plan in New York. The mayor is asking for private companies to come forward and run 5 supermarkets that will be owned by the city. Supermarkets where some prices will be lower. A lot lower.
No exceptions. No gimmicks.
Mayor Zohran Mamdani is promising 30% off a core basket of food, like produce and pasta, meat and seafood, bread and yogurt, rice and beans, and more.
What happened to the free?
That are non-essential will be sold at market price.
In the wealthiest city, in the wealthiest country, in the
Wait a
history
minute.
of the world.
Wait a minute. Market price?
And more. Other groceries considered non-essential will be sold at market price.
In the wealthiest city, in the wealthiest country, in the history of the world. No New Yorker should have to worry about being able to afford to feed their family.
The city says the discounts
They should if they're feeding their kid Fruit Loops.
reduce the average weekly grocery bill by 15%. But critics say the mayor's plan, which will cost $70 million, is a wasteful use of taxpayer money.
It
that
is.
could result in losses for the city. One watchdog saying, it is hard to see how subsidizing groceries is the most cost-effective way to increase affordability. Smaller food stores, including New York's famed bodegas, say city-subsidized markets will have an unfair pricing advantage. The idea has been tried before in other parts of the country with mixed results.
City-run grocery stores, it's a challenging enterprise. The grocery business is challenging.
A CNBC report found a city-owned store in St. Paul, Kansas, the only grocery store in town, turned a profit. But a store in a neighboring town failed, facing the challenge of running a business notorious for tight profit margins. In Baldwin, Florida, this town-run store closed after losing shoppers to a Walmart 8 miles away. But in big city Atlanta, a success story. A city-backed market run by a private operator is now building a second location.
Maybe just
Analysts
do
say
more
the
of that.
difference could be identifying so-called food deserts where there is a real need for a store. As for the New York plan, the mayor says city-run stores will not sell hot food, beer, or cigarettes to avoid competing with smaller bodegas.
I love that. They're like, the beer and cigarette industry, that's for the immigrants, that's for the bodegas, that's for all of like the, you know, the brown people. They're like, we can't touch that, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's fun. I think that I'm glad that they're respecting, I guess, the real originalists. But you know what? I say what you want about New York City, say what you want about Mamdani, say what you want about how this plan isn't going to work. I like Mamdani for the fact that he has banished Netanyahu from the city. He has been like, I don't want war criminals like you in this city, which is fair. I understand that. War criminals notoriously do love New York City. It's a very famous location to destroy in movies or for terrorist plots. And Netanyahu, he does intend on visiting New York City despite Mamdani saying that he is not welcome.
Yes, I do intend to come to New York. I think that tells you that the whole thing that the mayor of New York is basing himself on, this criminals, bogus charges, that's what he's using, and look at what he's doing. He's fomenting hate. He's supposed to be the mayor of all New Yorkers, but he's trying to turn one group against the other, and he's foisting hate and fear. Yes, I do.
Okay, well, listen, I'm not a fan of him either. I don't see him hoisting hate and fear. I don't see him doing what this person claims that he's doing. I think that he's, just some democratic socialist, and that's what he's up to. He's just up to his usual DS of America, DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. He's up to his DSA bullshit. I don't care. I don't care because I don't live in his region. And, I'm not banished from his city, and even if he does banish me from the city, I wouldn't want to be there in the first place. I don't understand why Netanyahu wants to. Ladies and gentlemen, I've had a wonderful time gathering these stories for you. I hope you had an even more wonderful time listening to them. I think I'm going to call it on this one, but if you'd like to be back at it, again for our next episode, it'll be tomorrow. Like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. In the meantime, I have been Ollie Vogt Larson with your brain on air. I will catch you all in the next broadcast. I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. I will see you all then. Bye-bye.